In 2019, my family and I were excited to finally move into a beautiful, spacious house in the suburbs after living for years in a small apartment. It was everything we had dreamed of. The house had large windows that allowed sunlight to pour in, a spacious backyard, and a calm, peaceful neighborhood. We were thrilled, believing this would be our dream home. But after a few nights, something started to feel off. At first, it was subtle. Doors that would creak when no one was around, small objects slightly out of place. We dismissed it as the house settling, but that changed one night. My dog, who is usually very calm and friendly, started barking furiously at the walls, especially near the stairs or the attic door. It was so intense, we had to calm him down, but the barking would return every night. One evening, after we had settled in, I went upstairs to the bedroom and I could hear what sounded like heavy footsteps coming from the attic. It was late, and everyone else was asleep. I assumed it was just my mind playing tricks on me, so I tried to ignore it. But the next night, the same thing happened. The footsteps grew louder, more distinct. I couldn't ignore it anymore, so I grabbed a flashlight and went up to the attic. I found nothing. The attic was completely empty, but the footsteps continued in my mind. They were real. A few days later, I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of soft whispering, faint voices coming from the kitchen. I convinced myself it was just the wind, but when I went to check, the whispers stopped immediately. I felt cold, and the atmosphere in the house seemed to shift. The final straw came one night when I was in the living room alone, making a late-night snack. I turned around to see a dark figure standing in the doorway of the kitchen watching me. It wasn't clear, almost like a shadow, but it was there. I froze in place, heart pounding in my chest, before I turned on all the lights and rushed out. I never felt safe in that house again. We did some research and learned that the house had once belonged to an older couple who had passed away unexpectedly. No one had ever mentioned anything unusual about the house, but after some digging, we found out that the couple's passing wasn't peaceful, and there were rumors of a tragedy involving them. We called a paranormal investigator who told us that the house was built on land where several unfortunate events had occurred, including a fatal accident in the 1800s. The spirits of those who had died there had never fully left, and the house was their domain. The investigator performed a cleansing ritual, and while it felt calmer, I could never shake the feeling that something was still watching me. In 2021, after years of living in cramped apartments, my family decided to buy a newly renovated house. It seemed perfect, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood away from the hustle and bustle of city life. We moved in with high hopes, ready for a fresh start. But from the moment we arrived, things started to feel wrong. On the first night, as we sat in the living room getting comfortable, I heard a loud bang from the hallway. At first, I thought it was just something falling, maybe the wind. But the house was sealed tight. A few hours later, the front door slammed shut on its own, with a force that left the house shaking. I rushed over to check, but the door was locked. There was no wind, no explanation. Then there were the lights. It wasn't just that they flickered. It was like they had a mind of their own. One night, I was in the kitchen when I noticed the light above me was blinking, while every other light in the house was steady. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I went to the living room, the same thing happened. One light flickered while the others stayed on. It was almost as if the house itself was alive, trying to get my attention. but it wasn't until I was home alone that I had the most terrifying experience. I was sitting in my bedroom when I heard faint music playing in the hallway. It was a soft melody, almost like an old music box. I got up, feeling uneasy, and walked into the hallway. There was no radio, no speaker, nothing. The music stopped immediately, but when I turned around, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A tall, shadowy figure moving across the hallway. It was quick, almost too fast for me to process, but I saw it clearly. Terrified, I rushed to my phone to call my wife, but she didn't pick up. I was alone, and the air around me felt thick, suffocating. I didn't know what to do. For weeks, we had strange occurrences. Objects would disappear, only to be found in odd places. Whispers would echo through the house at night. It felt as though the house was playing tricks on us. We contacted the previous owners and learned that they had moved out suddenly, citing personal reasons but never explaining why. After some investigation, we discovered that the land had a dark history. It had been the site of several mysterious disappearances over the years, and the house had been built right on top of it. We tried to leave, but found that the feeling of being watched never left, even as we packed our belongings. Eventually, we sold the house and moved somewhere else. But I've never felt truly safe in any place since. The fear never truly leaves you once you've experienced something like that. In early 2020, my wife and I moved into what we thought would be our forever home, a beautiful, spacious house in the countryside. It was the perfect setting, large yard, quiet roads, and a sense of calm we hadn't had in years. It was supposed to be the fresh start we needed, away from the chaos of the city. At first, it felt like a dream come true. But after a few weeks, strange things started happening. At night, the house creaked, not like normal settling noises, but sharp, unnerving cracks. One evening, as I was watching TV, I heard footsteps walking across the wooden floor upstairs. I got up, walked around, checked every room, but found nothing. My wife didn't hear anything, and I started doubting myself. But then, the noises started to become more frequent. Sometimes I would hear them even during the day, footsteps following me, even when I was alone. Then came the whispers. Soft, indistinct voices would fill the house, especially in the kitchen, when I was alone. At first, I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me. But one evening, as I walked past the bathroom, I saw something that made my heart stop. In the mirror, written in fog, were the words, "Get out." I froze, terrified, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. I wiped the mirror, but the words stayed there as if they were permanently etched. That's when I knew something was wrong. I contacted the previous owners and learned that they had left the house abruptly, citing personal reasons. A few days later, we discovered that the house had been built on land with a tragic past. There were reports of strange happenings over the years, including an unexplained death in the house decades ago. The spirits of those who had lived and died here were restless, their presence lingering in the walls. We sought help from a medium who confirmed that the house was haunted. She performed a ritual to cleanse the house, and while it became quieter, the heavy, suffocating atmosphere never truly lifted. We moved out shortly after, but I'll never forget the feeling of being watched, the sense that the house itself was alive and waiting for us to leave. These experiences have left me with a lingering unease that no other house has ever been able to shake.